Hello and welcome to Kresse & Co, the show looking at what affects business in Kent, with me, Chris Price. Joining me this week is Sue Nelson, Chief Executive of R&D support firm Breakthrough Funding, and Kresse Wesling, co-founder of handbag maker Elvis Kresse. Later we'll be talking about the rising number of bank closures across Kent and how it's affecting small businesses in particular. First, we're discussing the FutureList, published by Kent Business. It features 25 companies from the county which are changing the way we live and work with their innovative products and services. Boglarka Kostolani went to meet one of them.
Innovation is a key part of running a business. It's a way to make your product stand out and contribute to the communities around you. You may recognize some of the names on this year's FutureList, like BAE Systems and Pfizer. But even those that are not household names have global potential. Chosen by a team of expert judges, this year's group of firms are developing and selling innovative products and services that are transforming lives for the better across various sectors. Meet Icomira. The Swedish company allows passengers to use Wi-Fi on trains, buses and other public transport. It opened its UK head office in Chatham Maritime in 2015, and they are improving people's lives by keeping them connected, even if they are on the move.
We have won a couple of large projects in the last couple of months, and we're looking to roll out. We're expanding. We've just taken on more and more people. I mean, 5 years ago we were 10 people in the UK, we're now 60, and we're growing all the time. And we're doing lots of new projects in Kent, and Paramount London coming, and there's talks of new transportation links and everything else. It's a really exciting, vibrant place to be right now, and it's exciting being in Kent right now.
Driven by passenger feedback and their own in-house production of software and hardware, Icomira is one of many firms in Kent finding new ways to solve problems. With its prime location close to London, Kent has become a region where innovative entrepreneurial businesses feel they can base themselves and flourish. This is Boglarka Kostolani reporting for KMTV.
Okay, so Sue, we saw there the FutureList. You were one of the judges on the FutureList.
I was.
Tell us a little bit about what struck you when you were looking at the firms, when you and your fellow judges were compiling who was going to be on there.
I think the thing for me is that I don't know quite what I was expecting, and I was stunned by the variety of different companies. And Kresse and I were just having a chat before we went on air and saying it's really important that people who are at school understand the variety of jobs that are out there and all the different sorts of companies. So if we look at just some that are on the list, Abaltis, for example, are supplying blood plasma. I didn't even know that existed. I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? Delphi Diesel in Gillingham, they're developing the next generation of diesel engines, so full of amazing engineers in that company. Then we've got F1 Acoustics, who are looking at how you minimise sound when you're at festivals, looking at sort of sound minimisation. And then we've got Venom Tech, who are an incredible company, who are taking venom out of things like tarantulas and scorpions and extracting the bits that are really important in medicine for cancer drugs and things like that. I mean, what an amazing variety. And you're not even talking about software developers or financial services or even the wonderful things that Kresse does. So I was stunned by the variety, and they're all amazing. I thought they were all fantastic.
I mean, Venom Tech, perhaps I wouldn't be so keen on going down to their labs and checking out, but they are a fantastic company. Kresse, you guys, Elvis and Kresse, you've come up with an innovative way of reusing waste products. I mean, tell us a little bit about your firm, which is obviously one of the firms featured on the list.
I think the most important thing about our business is not necessarily what we do, but why we do it and how we do it. So we took the view when we started that the state of the environment wasn't great. 100 million tonnes of waste went to landfill in the UK in the year that I arrived. And I wanted to address that in not necessarily a playful way, but certainly a different way than it had been. You can have a lot of public service announcements about littering less, which we certainly need to do more of, but why not make waste aspirational? And our approach was to take London's decommissioned fire hoses. We started with one hose at a time. Now we solve the entire fire hose waste problem and turn that into luxury accessories and handbags. And it wasn't necessarily the first thing we wanted to make roofs, we wanted to make furniture. There was a lot of other things we thought we could use the hose for, but it turns out that fire hose, decommissioned fire hose, 25-year-old fire hose, makes absolutely stunning belts.
Chris,
and
you got to
and
see
wallets.
this. We've got an example
Yeah,
down here.
we've got one of
We've
the
got an
products
example down
in
here.
house.
Yeah, this is one of our
So
bags.
and this is made from an old fire hose.
Yes.
It's amazing.
And what qualities does it give it?
I think there's interesting qualities. One, there's the heritage of the material itself. It's life-saving material. It's also water-resistant and fire-resistant. But most importantly for us, it's made in an ethical way. We employ apprentices. We give 50% of our profits from the fire hose range to the firefighters' charity, and we're a B Corp. And I think that's the most interesting thing about what we do. We address social and environmental problems through the management of our business, through the design of the business. And that's what we're the most proud of.
And certainly, Chris, I'm seeing more of this in the companies that come through my company, is that there's this circular thing going on. So, for instance, if you take somebody like Toast Ale, they go around, get all of the sort of waste bread at the end of the day around the whole of London. They take it to this amazing place in London overnight. They toast it. They make beer out of it, which is great beer. And then the profits that they make from that, they plough back into campaigning on food waste.
So what do you think then that Kent perhaps has to offer, which allows, innovative firms to spring up and come up with these amazing ideas, which are, really transforming the way that people either do business or, creating products which,
I think Kent is an incredibly diverse county, and I think people forget that it's an incredibly diverse county. On the north, on the north of Kent, of that belt there, we've got loads and loads of industrial companies doing lots of engineering, some really interesting, innovative stuff going on there. Discovery Park, you've got some real high-tech companies down there, in Sandwich. And then in Tunbridge Wells, we've got loads and loads of financial service companies, legal companies and whatever. And then it's a very, very rural county. There's a lot of innovation going on in farms, in vineyards that are springing up all around the county. And I've never known such a diverse county. And it's very inspiring.
And Kresse, you guys, it's not just business, big business parks and town centres, but you guys work out in the lovely village of
Tong. Yeah. What drew us to Kent was the building itself. We found this old mill that was really in a state of severe disrepair. So for us, it was a natural fit for the business because the building was going to waste, and we knew that we could rescue it. And we've rescued it entirely with reclaimed materials and brought it back to life. And it's now an incredible venue, and we get people coming down from London. We get people coming from South Korea, from all over the world, and they're coming to this tiny hamlet of Tong that I think has 5 families and 1 business. Oh no, there's 2. There's a graphic design business in one of the other barns. But it's what drew us here was the mix of nature and then the access to big urban centres. So we can get to London, we can get to Paris, we can get to Europe very, very easily. But we're in this absolutely stunning landscape surrounded by cherry trees and apple trees.
I do think the road and rail connections are incredibly helpful.
Amazing.
Yeah, sure. And aside from the road and rail connections, there are also some really, really top centres for these innovation. I mean, you've got the innovation centres which are run by the councils kind of thing, but you've also got, some of your fellow judges were from Kent Science Park and Discovery Park. There's some real places where people are trying to create an environment.
We've got great talent in Kent, and I think the universities help with that. We've got the University of Greenwich here, we've got the University of Kent, we've got some great colleges, and you would assume that there's this huge brain drain into London, but that isn't necessarily so. There's some great stuff going on with very talented people in Kent.
Not everyone wants a commute.
Absolutely. Brilliant, guys. Well, thank you very much for your thoughts on that. And if you want to see who else is on the Future List and find out more about them, visit kentbusiness.co.uk/FutureList. So moving on, we're looking at the closure of High Street bank branches and its effect on business. Last month, Lloyds revealed it will close 4 sites in Kent this summer as part of 200 closures announced last July. Back in December, NatWest said it was getting rid of 9 branches in the county, and the trend shows no sign of stopping as more customers do their banking online. Bernie Botto looks at the changes and the obstacles it's causing for firms.
In the past 2 years, more than 1,000 high street bank branches have been shut down because more and more people are banking online. Lloyds, HSBC, and NatWest are all planning to close some of their locations across Kent this year. In Rochester, small businesses are the ones being affected by the bank closures. NatWest is one of just 2 banks left on the high street and will close their branch this summer, meaning that business owners will no longer be able to bank in person. But that might not be such a bad thing. Baju Patel is the owner of Cupcake Avenue, a cake decoration shop. He does part of his business's banking with NatWest, but he doesn't think the closure will be too much of an issue. He can still deposit cash at the post office and easily move his banking online. In fact, he thinks the closure may even stimulate local business.
It just makes it easier to be online. It's the way forward. I won't have to close my shop and go down there, so probably a good thing for me overall. If the bank closes, a new business will go in there that will benefit the high street. When the HSBC closed, it probably annoyed a few people, but we've adapted and we changed, so I think it'll be a short-term thing. As I said, a business will go in there and it'll be better for the high street. We have to look forward, right?
Other business owners argue that bank closures will affect business. If tourists have nowhere to exchange money, then they're less likely to spend it. Some have fought to keep the bank open, but whatever happens, business owners will have to adapt. Bernie Botto, KMTV.
Okay, so Kresse, small businesses are seeing banks closing all over the place and their nearby branches. I mean, what challenges does the closure of banks cause for small firms in some cases?
I think every firm is different, but certainly Elvis and Kresse started in the time of the internet, and we always had the intention of being rural. So we are really not dependent on anything other than internet banking. So we're lucky in that regard. I think actually that the fight is going to have to be for banks to stay relevant in business rather than the other way around, because the more they sort of retreat and the more they stop providing loans, the more they're going to have to fight back when they discover that they've been disrupted themselves. So I'm less worried about the banks and more concerned just on general innovation, and we seem to be leading the charge rather than the banks, really.
So, I mean, you deal with a lot of firms through your business, and are there any things that businesses find that maybe they are missing out on if a bank
we just do internet banking in our business, so we turn over just over £1 million a year, and we just do everything on the internet. And I can't imagine, I don't even know where our bank is. I mean, I think once last year we got a cheque, which we didn't know what to do with. Had to find a bank to pay it in. It just doesn't affect our business whatsoever. But I think if you're dealing with consumers and you're dealing in cash, I think it's a completely different story, because what are you going to do with that cash? And we're a business to business, and a lot of people we deal with a business to business. When you're business to consumer and you're dealing with consumers and you've got cash, I think that's a completely different matter. And what are you supposed to do if your local bank shuts and the next one's 20 miles down the road? That's going to add cost to your business to sort that out.
And potentially time, I guess, as well. If you're giving up your local post office because it's moved there.
It's going to take time. I mean, I think another point that Kresse is making is I am beginning to find the main high street banks irrelevant, because they haven't got the good relationship that they should have with businesses.
No.
So my client relationship manager I haven't seen for 3 or 4 months, because he's got hundreds of people like me and he just can't get around to see them all.
No.
And the whole of the banking system needs a really good look at itself, because it's not relevant, and certainly we would never go to our bank for a loan.
No.
First of all, they won't grant you one, and the whole system will take months and months and months, and I need it next week or in 2 weeks' time as a business, and they are just not fast enough.
So is that part of the issue then, that actually now, a small business like yourself, Kresse, when you're looking for finance, you don't think of a bank, because actually they've become quite averse to actually giving sort of growing businesses some money to get going?
It takes a long time, but certainly Elvis and I started the business just before the recession, and we felt that really no one would finance collecting old hoses and turning them into luxury handbags, and we were probably right. So we just never approached financing in any way, shape or form. We have no investors, we have no shareholders other than the two of us, and we relied on our own capital. We started the business with £39.99. And I think that's an important message to put out there as well. We've been cash flow positive and profitable every year. And it doesn't always have to be about large injections of cash. Small businesses can innovate. And if a lack of capital is one of the problems confronting you, then design your business to not need capital. Design a way around that problem.
And I think the thing is, Chris, if you go to a high street bank, if you are less than 2 years old as a business, they will not lend you money. and you won't get an overdraft either. So they won't give you an overdraft and they won't lend you money.
You could mortgage your house maybe, but
So and that's the bottom line if you go to high street banks. So you have to find alternatives. You won't get the money.
And you talked about not knowing your relationship manager. I mean, is that a symptom of the banks, sort of having less and less branches? I mean, if there's only one person looking after lots of businesses, it is an impossible job.
Yeah.
And also, what businesses undoubtedly lose something from not having that point of face-to-face contact sometimes, being able to just talk to a human being.
Yeah, because the banking's then not proactive. It's reactive. They only come to you when you've got a problem, whereas actually what used to happen, and it's not the relationship manager's fault, it's the banks have been cutting costs dreadfully. What used to happen is they'd know your business, they'd talk about your plans for the future.
They'd know you.
What you were doing, they'd know you, what you needed, they'd predict it before you did. And these poor chaps, they don't get the time to do that anymore. And it's, a lot of people who work in banks are finding it difficult. And it's all loaned by numbers, so they can't even make their own decisions, And
is there any element of how this might affect the sort of moving back of banks? Might affect the general high street, because before you might have had to pop in to drop a check in or do a little bit of dropping some cash for your business, and you might have met someone for a coffee in town, or you might have nipped to a shop or something because you thought, well, it's on the way. And high streets there, if banks are starting to disappear, that must have some kind of detrimental effect. In terms of
the mixed economy of a high street. It's another reason not to go into a town centre, isn't it?
I think the high street will reinvent itself, though. We if you look at Britain 100 years ago, it was a horse in the cart. I mean, things have moved on, things have changed, and things will continue to change. The banks may fall away. We might find that actually we're just lending to each other in larger groups. We might find lots of internet disruptors that come in, and the banks of old are irrelevant. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, but that could happen. And if that happens, then the high street's likely going to be a place of community action, community development. And wouldn't that be nice, that it wasn't just there to extract cash from individuals and businesses?
And interestingly, Metro Bank, for example, are opening branches everywhere. And they don't call them branches; they call them stores, because they feel that they're shops and that they're retail, and they're open all hours of the day. They're dog friendly, so you can take your dog in, and they've got So they're reinventing it, and they are firmly placing themselves in the high street. So the opposite in their case, which is interesting.
Say that they don't view their clients as customers; they view them as fans. They want to create fans. It's about creating someone who enjoys something about your business, which a lot of small firms do. So is this really not that much of a problem? Or actually, businesses businesses are finding ways to get around this issue of banks disappearing, and are actually, by sounds of it, from you two, are sidelining the role of the bank.
I think it has a big impact on certain consumers that really have grown up and used bank branches all their lives. And as we've been saying before, it affects cash-driven businesses. Other businesses might find it a lot easier to adapt. Certainly when you're using online payment systems, you rely on them less and less.
I think the bigger effect is amongst the public. So I think there are communities where you've got people who need to physically use a bank because they don't have access to the internet. They don't have those things. It's very unusual for a business not to have access to the internet. So I think there's two things. Businesses is one, but the normal day-to-day public is a different matter. And I think for them it's really hard losing a bank in a high street.
Guys, thank you very much for your thoughts on that. But before we go, though, there is one topic I must get your views on, which is the small matter of a general election, which is coming up.
Is there? General election, really?
Of course. What do you want to see from the parties when they bring out, they're going to be bringing out the manifestos in the near future? What do you want to see them saying to businesses? What measures do you want for business in there?
Well, the first from me is, can you please stop calling business people wealth creators? Because I find that really irritating. And I think a lot of people are struggling in business to pay their salaries. They're all heroes. You put your house up to start a business, you're a hero in the community, in my personal opinion. And it's not about big business. There are millions of small businesses out there. We are job creators. And I think that we ought to have a much better understanding of what it's like to run a small business, and the fact that these people are creating jobs, which is an incredible thing. So anything, any help, tax breaks, anything is very, very welcome. And can politicians please stop thinking that business means big business, where people can behave quite badly, when actually the rest of us, the 4.5 million small businesses out there, are finding it hard, but they love what they do and they're determined to make it work. And they should have a better, more appreciation in society, in my personal opinion.
Kresse, I mean, is this too focused? Is this election too focused on the big issue of Brexit? And is there actually a danger that we might end up not having politicians focus on some of the important issues that affect, the day-to-day work of businesses like your own?
I think Brexit is really important to focus on. It's the future of the country. It's a big directional shift. So I don't mind that that's taking up a lot of the policy space. I think for the rest of it, actually, I would just love some clarity and consistency, a little less fibbing and a lot more delivery. If actually people just said, this is what the tax rate's going to be and it's going to stay there, and it just stayed there, and it was one tax rate for everyone, and there was no loopholes, I think that would be a marvelous thing for businesses. And you wouldn't have to have 5,000 hours of accounting time, because actually it'd be quite simple and quite clear. We have too many promises and not enough delivery. And certainly Brexit is one big issue, but we're not talking about climate change at all. And climate change affects all people of all political persuasions across every party. And none of the current, it's not anywhere in the debate. And it hasn't been in this country for years, and we're falling behind, and it's appalling.
And that cycle of reusing waste, like your business obviously does, trying to create that culture of that virtuous cycle of, seeing waste as a resource rather than just something.
Seeing everything as a resource. I think there's too many things that we see as waste in this country. We're wasting people, we're wasting talent, we're wasting time, we're wasting opportunity. And we certainly are wasting a lot of resources.
Guys, thank you very much for your thoughts. That's all we have time for today. That's it for the latest edition of Kresse & Co, our show looking at the issues affecting business in Kent. You can keep up to date with all the county's latest business news at kentbusiness.co.uk, and you can follow us on Twitter at KentBusiness and join our pages on Facebook and LinkedIn. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Have a very good day. Bye-bye.